Sometimes your best asset is your ability to persevere and keep going no matter what. Welcome to the FieldFamous podcast, brought to you by Field Routes, a show that shines a light on the field service industry and the dedicated professionals that grind every day on their journey to success. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Fasano. Before we begin, I want to remind you that the best way to get new episodes of the FieldFamous podcast is to subscribe on your favorite pod player, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find the FieldFamous podcast. The show is also available in video format. If you prefer to watch the interview, you can subscribe there. Go to BeFieldFamous.com for all the links. And last but not least, leave us a 5-star review if you're really loving the show. Our guest for today's show is Allan Draper. Allan is the CEO, founder of Proof Pest Control. More than that, Allan is an entrepreneur. He's an investor, an attorney. He's a podcast host, which I'm excited to talk to him about because I haven't yet to interview another host. And he really understands and he specializes in helping small businesses scale, helping entrepreneurs. So, Allan, I'm really excited to have you on the show. Are you ready to be field famous?
I'm ready, Chris.
All right, let's do this. So, let's introduce yourself. Where you are now, and then I want to talk to you about how you got there, and we'll just go on that road, on that journey.
For sure. Yeah, started Proof in 2015. So I consider myself a bug guy. I love the pest control industry. I have my hands in quite a few different things now. Invest in a few different industries and things like that. You mentioned I have a podcast. I actually have two that drop weekly episodes. So I spend a lot of time podcasting, a lot of time working on my businesses while we're continuing to grow Proof. Right now, Proof has 10 branches, and we do about 1.8, 1.7x every year. So we almost double in size every year. And I just enjoyed the journey. I enjoy connecting with my fellow bug people and PCOs. I fit really well into this industry. So I'm just happy to be here and share whatever I can about my journey, maybe in hopes of helping some folks see around the corner a little bit as they're scaling their companies.
And so what I want to understand is, I like to ask this of people in the industry because I find that the answers are always different. Why pest? Is it, some people say they love the business model. Some people just love bugs. Some people got into it. What was it about that? Did you have a previous experience that got you to something in this industry?
In 2006, I went to work for a company in Ohio, pest control company in Ohio. My brother Brent was selling door-to-door for them. Mm-hmm. And after that, 2006, 2007, I was actually trying to start a pest control company. So we got introduced to it via summer sales, although I wasn't knocking doors. I was a technician for a company called Safeguard, really great company back then. It's Vantage Marketing, Insight Pest Control, or some of the same ownership, not all of it, but had a really good experience back then. The interesting part is that tried to start a company with my brother in 2006, 2007. Didn't really work.
A pest control business?
Pest control.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, pest control. I actually went out to Ohio to learn the operations side of the company a little bit because my brother had the sales side down pretty well. And he and I just couldn't figure it out. Well, I think we were too immature at the time. We didn't have enough capital, had a tough time getting along. And so he stayed with it. He stayed with door-to-door.
Okay.
He stayed with door-to-door, ended up starting a company a few years down the road, sold his interest in it. He's one of the co-founders of a large company called GreenX that's still around.
Yep.
I took a different path. I went to law school, and then I practiced law for a few years, and he was in, I'm 3 years into my law practice. And
what kind of law, Allan?
I practiced commercial litigation. Okay. So lawsuits.
Okay.
So anyway, there was this transitionary phase that he was in, and I said, "Hey, man, maybe we give it another shot." And the rest, as they say, is history.
And was it a personal journey for you too? Because what I'm hearing is like Your brothers, so that comes along with a lot of things, right? So was it mistakes in quotes that you made in the business front, or was it just really like, it's my brother? We were like, where was the difference when you go fast forward and you guys go at it again? Were you both in different places personally, professionally, just made it work differently?
Yeah, I think we could have made it work back in 2006, 2007. Business is crazy because sometimes you don't know when to call it quits. And I think back then it was right for it. It was the right move for us to not pursue it further. But in terms of maturity, experience, confidence is a big part of it. I had, gone through law school, passed the bar exam, all those difficult things. He had, established more than a decade of, door-to-door experience or right around that. Very successful year after year. So we were just much more prepared, better capitalized, just more ready. Just
more ready to do it. So as you started your growth journey in this business, and now knowing where you are now, and your just your knowledge of business and business growth in general, is there something in particular about this industry that you like from a growth perspective amongst others, or do you think there's core tenets of scaling a business, in particular small business? You know what I mean by that? Or is there something very unique or more unique in this industry that allows a system that you really enjoy or really like?
So I'm trying to view this from, my kind of entrepreneur hat, not my bug guy hat, right? Through that lens or that perspective. Because I am very passionate about the pest control industry. And there are a lot of things that I love about it. I love how sustainable it is during economic downtimes. I love how connected it is to home ownership. I love the recurring revenue aspect of it. I love the low barrier to entry. I love that it's a blue collar field. I love the network that is involved in pest control that doesn't exist in other industries. And a lot of times we don't know that. That being said, in business, there are definitely some core principles. There are some things that, and I've done that. I've applied what I know about pest control to other industries, and I've been able to be successful. So while I have a special place in my heart for pest control, there are some principles that you can scale a company in any industry in, especially pest control, just kind of applying the nuances to the new industry.
So do we want to maybe talk a little bit about those? Like, I'm wondering, like, in your experience looking back, are there common stumbling blocks that you see in scale? And then on the other side, like, what are some of those conserved strategies? Like, I call you in, Allan, take a look at what I got going on, man. I need your help. Are you focused right away on specific things, or everything is a case by case and things will just sort of emerge?
No, I'm going to start at the same place. So I do coach small businesses. Over the years, I've coached probably 100 plus. I do it as a side project. It's not really my main thing, but I'm always going to start with getting to know the founder a little bit, who's managing the company, and then I'll go straight into the financials. I tell business owners and entrepreneurs that are looking to start a business that the main goal for the first few years is just to keep the boat afloat. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we're like, oh, we're going to do $2 million in revenue, and bottom line revenue is going to be 30% or north. And it's like, just keep the boat afloat. Just because after 2, 3, 4 years, something magical happens in business. That's why you see most businesses fail before 5 years, and a lot of them even the first year. So I'm going to be looking at those core aspects. I'm going to be looking at cash flow. I'm going to be looking at how they manage their money.
Right. Like a general health score of the core of the business, right? Like trying to get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to be looking at the personnel, how they're treated by management / ownership. A lot of people are going to come in, they're going to say, hey, how are you treating your customers? I care first and foremost, how is management / ownership treating their people, and how are they retaining their people? And to be honest, like if someone says, hey, Alan, come look at my business, I need some help, I'm going to look at the same things that I would look at if someone says, hey, Allan, I'm looking to raise some money, or I need, I'm selling some equity or whatever. I'm going to look at those same things. I'm going to view it from an investment perspective and kind of look at those, three big rocks. What is the founders? What do they look like? The management team? What does the financial statements look like? How strong financially is the company? And then number three, how are they treating their people?
Yep. What about, so this sort of spurred this in my mind. One of the things that I would hear a lot from marketing for, in particular, pest control companies, but in general, is people come out hot, and they'll be like, hey, I want to do 50%. Like, I want to go. I'm going to grow. And I'm like, great. Okay. Let's look at everything and let's determine where you're getting that number from. Where are you getting that from? I just know I can do it. Okay. And then, okay, how much do you want to invest to get there? And that number rarely meets where the growth that they want to get to. And so you have to have this conversation, and it doesn't really resonate, you know what I mean? And so that's a common thing that I've seen. Do you see that? And what have been your conversations there when it comes up?
I mean, I have seen that. So I also own a digital marketing agency that caters mostly to pest control companies. That's like 95% of our business. But so I do see that. I see, hey, these are our goals. How do we get there? We show them the path and what it's going to cost, and they're like backpedaling. I think there's an analogy there though, Chris, because that's also true of other types of efforts in a business. One of the most shocking things about owning a business is how difficult it is. And it's very cliche to say that. But when you actually get into it and you realize you're going to have your heart ripped from your chest because customers leave you a 1-star review, or somebody that has a route, they give you no notice. They don't do their route that day and they never come back. So it's like, it's the same principle there, where it's like, are you willing to do what it takes once, not before you know what it takes.
Right.
But once you know, hey, like, there's going to be several days I'm not going to see my kids because I'm going to be gone before they wake up. I'm going to be home after they go to bed. And it's like, am I willing to, I talk a lot about embracing the focused imbalance. And what that means is you have to hyper focus. I don't believe in living a balanced life. I don't think there's such a thing. Does that mean I spend the exact same amount of time in every area of my life? Absolutely not.
But so I don't mean to interrupt. This is a big
thing all day long.
This is a big thing right now, Allan. Balanced life is a big thing out there. People are pushing this idea, right? Because burnout and work burnout is a big thing. People are a lot of work. And so I've thought about this too. And it's like, it's just not the way that the world is right now. There's not a lot of, especially if you really want to do it. And if that same person who came to me and said, I want to get here, there ain't going to be a lot of balance. It can't be. I agree with that. So is that a good way to live? How does that evolve in this world of wellness that we have? I imagine you're very busy. You do things to keep you calm, but is there balance, and what do you do to achieve it?
I mean, balance.
How you define balance, right?
Yeah, I wish there was another word, because balance brings to mind a scale,
correct,
with equal parts on both sides,
and that's never that way. Life is not that way.
That's not how I look at it. And whatever this quote unquote balance, whatever that means, is so specific and personal to us. I have 3 small kids, 10, 8, 4. I'm spending a lot of time with them. And I'll go away for a week and I'll still answer some emails, a phone call here and there, but they are my focus. Is that the balanced life? No. That's a perfect example of the focused imbalance. It's me when it's time. My family's all that matters.
Right.
But when I'm at work right now, Chris, this is the only thing that matters to me.
Correct.
Is me talking to you. Right. So I've set it up so that my kids aren't coming into my home office or whatever. But I think you need to really backtrack. The listener needs to go back to the beginning and set the goals. Where do I want to be 5, 10, 20 years? What are the things that I'm going to wish that I did, right? The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is, right now. But some people, Chris, they are not interested in doing what it takes. There's nothing wrong with that. My mom, she was a 9 to 5er. When 5 o'clock hit, it was the Flintstones thing, right? Yabba dabba doo, slides down the dinosaur's tail. Work was over. She, incredible person. One of my greatest mentors. I love her so much. I could not live that life. And so it really comes down to, let's get those objectives in line. What are the things that you really want to achieve? Because you're going to have sacrifices. What is the sacrifice you're willing to make to achieve those goals? Sometimes they're just too big.
Right, but you're coming from a place where of self-awareness, Allan, right? You have a self-awareness. You have recognized these things. You have looked at them. You have made the determination that the way you're living is your balance. Like you just said, that's your balance. Your balance is when you're with your kids, you're only with them. When you're with your work, you're only with that, and you're good with that.
Yeah.
And you're realistic with yourself. A lot of people aren't, and they sometimes have a hard time listening to the outside. I guess they will learn on their own at some point in time, right? Unfortunately, but I think it's more, how do you become a self-aware individual where you can check yourself and be like, look, I want to get to 50% growth. Probably not going to do it in the first year. I should probably focus on this, this, and this. But I imagine that's a journey to get to that place.
I mean, so I'm really struggling with this word balance, right? I wish we could toss it, but it's the journey. You don't know until you know. When you start a business, you don't know what's going to take until, and you can talk to people, you can talk to me, reach out to me and ask some questions, and I can kind of give you a sense, although I don't even know completely in your specific case. But I like that you, Chris, I like that you use the word journey, because that's what it's really about. And as business owners, we're very focused on, as we learn, we pivot and we evolve. And it's the same for their lives. As you learn a little bit, okay, this is what it's going to take. Maybe I'm going to readjust my goals, my values, my principles. And principles, actually, no, my goals and what I'm trying to achieve. And it's just kind of a guess and check sometimes.
How do you stay learning, Allan? Like, what do you do to stay knowledgeable? Is it just that you're in so many things that you're always stumbling across new things and you learn that way? Or do you have other things where you're in and you're consuming and learning?
I read a lot. That's a big part of it. I listen to podcasts, but I don't think there is a lesson more powerful than starting a business. I don't think you can learn anything, to that degree, because when you start a business, you're learning it in your soul. You're like bones, where you feel it. It's not just what you know in your head. So the real barometer for me is, how uncomfortable am I? Right? I mentioned I have a digital marketing agency. I own a software company. I'm not a programmer, not a developer. I'm not a marketer. And so I try to just get really uncomfortable. A great way for the listener to do that is through growth. So if you're scaling your company and you're not coasting, it is uncomfortable. It is hard. You have to hire, you have to improve your systems, you have to maintain your customer base, all these things, right? So really, there's so many ways to grow, but it's almost all of them are tied to this idea of, am I pushing myself outside of my comfort zone and learning something new? It's just like when we were little kids, like the alphabet was super hard for us.
Yep.
So what did we do? We made ourselves uncomfortable to learn it. It's the same as adults.
Yep. Hey, muscles need to be shredded before they can regrow, right? Exactly. That's how it rolls. Like most things in life need to be, attacked before they can really thrive and grow. I wanted to go back to something we were talking about at the beginning. You were talking about the aspects of the business, the industry and pests, et cetera, that were appealing. You mentioned about this concept of through big issues like a pandemic and how it's the essential part of the business. I'm curious to ask you what that experience going through COVID and the pandemic taught you about business in general and yours in particular. Because for me, I remember marketing through that, and it's like, man, you really go through your business inventory and your services and like, what can I do? How can I pivot? Right. So tell me a little bit about that for you, what you learned.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember when, there was different phases, especially early 2020. And I remember when it was like, okay, this thing's serious. And I kind of froze up. I sent an email company-wide, said, hiring freeze. Let's watch our, the outgo of our money and things like that. And that lasted for about a week. And then I realized that there was all this opportunity. And I think in moments like that, you really dig down and you try to discover or remember why you're doing what you're doing, why you started a pest control company in the first place. And for us, we were really big on job creation. We wanted to create a work environment where people actually enjoyed their jobs and they were taken care of. And that, because I went back to that, it was like, wait, why are we on this hiring freeze then? Because there's these opportunities and people are looking for jobs, stability. And, it's kind of funny because the one thing that comes to mind when you ask about COVID during that time is fear.
Yeah.
Do you know there's two groups? Either you let the fear control you or you controlled it. And I learned so much about myself and the leaders of my company and how we did that. And I think the second facet or aspect of that is not just what we were feeling internally, but how we were voicing and communicating that to others.
Yeah.
And because they were scared. And as leaders, it's weird because people don't want to hear that we're having a bad day. They don't. They don't want to hear that we're scared. And I totally get that and I embrace that. And so it gave us this great opportunity to develop our leaders, even though they were scared. They thought they were going to lose their jobs and just kind of double down on that improvement. And we absolutely crushed it during that year, almost to the extent where we started to feel bad because we heard about restaurants going out of business, retail getting hit hard and shut down. And so just awesome opportunity there.
Yeah. I mean, it was really... in the context of bad everything was there. In certain businesses, in particular, they saw a big boom, and it almost opened up different areas and different tracks. I know businesses that pivoted then and stay that way, and they have things that they probably would have never thought about. Because in times of great, big, like, what is happening, that's when sometimes you find stuff. It forces you to look in. It forces you to look at places you've never looked before. And wow, man, look what I got. Look what we can do. We can do this. And then if you get through that, you're good. Like, you're going to be all right. And everybody comes together over it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Let me ask you this. I've asked a couple people. You're the perfect person, I think, to ask this question and get your insight on. When you're growing a business and you have an exit in mind, whatever that exit is to you, do you grow and scale your business differently dependent on the exit? I've heard strategies and people say yes, some people say no, doesn't matter, just grow a good business. I'm curious to get your take on it. Do you grow and have your plan of growth different based on the strategy of exit?
Yeah, 100%. So here's the thing, and this is like one of my patented, not that I can patent a saying, but this is something I say all the time on my show. All the time in consulting other businesses and things like that, is that the best way to grow a company to sell is to grow it not to sell. That being said, we as individuals, we are constantly focused on our thoughts. Great story. I'm an older guy, I guess you could say, and so I remember the OJ trial.
Okay, yes. I'm that old then. I remember the OJ trial too.
Do you remember the white Bronco?
Of course. It's like burned in my memory, man, that whole scene.
Exactly. So the white Bronco, for the younger folks, he takes off. He's running, in this white Bronco that his buddy's driving.
He's got the dude in the car.
The
yeah. He's crouched in the back. Yeah, man.
And there's people at the overpass with signs, "Go OJ!" Like cheering him as he's going by. And there's all these helicopters following. So there's this live video stream. It's incredible. And then the next day, Chris, I saw 5 white Broncos, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, whoa, people are buying all these white Broncos because of OJ and the publicity. And then I kept seeing more and more. And then I realized those white Broncos were always there, right? They were always there. When I saw it on the news, it changed my perspective. I started looking for them.
Yep.
When an individual they have this plan where they're going to sell their company, they're going to view things through that perspective. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. They just need to know about that. I think if you have an exit plan, exit strategy, it's okay, but keep in mind that in our business, in the pest control business, we've seen some crazy acquisitions. Mm-hmm. There's a several $100 million deal that was announced just 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it's because that company, who I'm very familiar with, they built that company not to sell. They built it to take care of their customers, high retention. They took care of their people. They did all these things right. There have been, the counterpart to that argument, to that story, where there have been companies that they've blown up, high valuations, and then crazy attrition once they get acquired.
Yep.
So it's like, I think that I'm a, work a plan type of guy. And so I think that there's nothing wrong with it, but just keep that caveat in mind that it's not to make a quick buck.
Right. I mean, I look at that and I say, well, it'd be so attractive to want to buy the company that focused on being a very good company, especially in this game that's dealing with individuals and people and things like that. So like, yeah, that's when I ask people that, I tend to get that. Like what they say, what they've said is no, at least try to know where you want to go. Make it your goal. That's why I get up in the morning. That's why I'm here. That's my bit. But don't solely do everything for that, because if you do that, like if you try to do something, most of the time you never, it's like the things you get to the places that you're not really trying to get to. Podcasting, I want to talk to you about podcasting. Sure. I fell in love with podcasting. I started my first podcast over a decade ago.
Jeez, they had podcasts?
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago. The Stem Cell Podcast is the name of the show. And we ended up, I was a graduate student, and the idea was, I had a biotech company that I didn't know how to run. And I was like, how are we going to market? How am I going to sell? And my idea, the concept was, this product is for science. Like there was a product for scientists, et cetera. So it's like, I'm going to speak directly to the people that want to use it. And that's it. If I can speak to them and they can trust me, and then the brand they trust, like, whatever, eventually. What I learned is that the show became more popular than anything else I was doing. And we went in on that. And what I loved about it was that experience of trust. It was that these people every Tuesday, every whatever day, they pop it in and they are waiting to hear what we have. And they are super engaged, more engaged than almost in anything that I've ever experienced. And I love that interaction. And I think it has a lot of value in both life and business in the right way. I've seen it go wrong. I've seen a lot of people do things, whatever. But I love it. I find it to be a great medium. What drew you to it? What do you love about it? And how do you view it in the sort of context of business?
So I started my first podcast, which back then was called Start and Grow Your Pest Control Company, during COVID. So it's a little over 3 years ago. I started it because there was so much misinformation going around the bug industry, especially legal and financial information. I'm not trained on the financial side. I've just taught myself corporate finance through textbooks and videos. But I do have a background in the law. And I just got sick of it. I got sick of people that don't have employees telling other people how to hire and manage their employees. And so that's kind of where it started. And I've never really monetized it. I just kind of kept it going. Mm-hmm. Now it's called Bug Bucks, BUGBUX. And it's been really cool. Like it's funny that you bring it up, because I had a post the other day. We hit 50,000 downloads, and our platform sent out this. Yeah, thank you. Sent out this notification to kind of celebrate and post about it. And I talked about all the hours that I've invested in, thousands of hours over the years. And it's, now it's different than it was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a podcast now. Mm-hmm. So getting traction it's way different. It's very noisy environment, but I think it's been an incredible journey. I've been given so much from the pest control industry. There are so few people that aren't willing to give you every bit of information they have in this industry. It's tremendous. So that was my way of saying, hey, let's do something, give back to the community and help people that need it.
And when people will ask you or come to you and say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a pod, I'm thinking about putting it out there, what's that conversation like?
Very few people have actually
really
come to me. Yeah, very few. I've had some people ask me a little bit about, maybe a handful, less than 5 have said that they're interested in starting one. But I think it really depends on why you're doing it. Don't do it if you're trying to make money. Yes. Don't do it. I'll give you 100 better ways to make money than to start a podcast. But if you're doing it to kind of learn about podcasting, learn about marketing, you have to know how to market when you podcast, learn about the tech aspect of it. And my biggest takeaway, the thing that I've received the most, is the connections that I've made. I've produced over 260 podcast episodes, and just I look back and it's the people that I met. So I'm friends with these people that otherwise I wouldn't be friends with. But usually when someone comes to me with an endeavor, I'll try to encourage them and help them. And it's the same with podcasting. But I just kind of throw that caveat that don't do it for money, because there is none.
No, I mean, my like if you have a brand and you're making money from that brand, it can definitely enhance the brand and help you grow that. But if you're trying to use it as a direct revenue source, you just want to start a show to make money, unless you're incredibly well known and famous, an influencer, and you can easily get sponsors. Yeah, but that's a game too, right? Keeping up. I was in that game and trying to maintain this. It's a game. It's a business. It's a business if you really want to make it such. Yeah. And you have certain obligations that you have to meet, certain reads, certain things, and it could also then take away from the almost purity, if you will, of what a podcast is. And that has to be done delicately, right? I remember balancing that, because when you're speaking to an audience that really wants to hear from you, the last thing they want to feel like is now you're selling to them, because it can contaminate the relationship a little bit, right? So, it's a fascinating game. I want to just as we get towards the end here, talking about podcasting, you have to know marketing. You're involved in the marketing world. I'm curious, like, do you have anything you're seeing in the future on marketing and digital that you're really excited about? New techniques, new tactics, new ways to grow businesses through marketing? Are there certain things that you guys are really looking at or really pumped about?
Yeah, there's a lot in AI that just I don't think it replaces much. It just enhances it, makes things a lot faster. Because really, to get traction in marketing, you need to get down in the dirt and do things the right way. It's a lot like social media. Nowadays, there's no shortcut. You really have to do the work. But the software, the AI that's coming out is really exciting. Another thing about marketing that's interesting is how fast that industry evolves. Mm-hmm. It changes like every week. Google will change their algorithm. They'll change AdWord pricing structure. Right now, we're noticing there's going to be an 11% growth, it looks like, this year over last year in the overall United States pest control market. That being said, there's a lot more people going after those leads and things. So leads, cost per conversion, those are going up right now. So I think there's some exciting tech. I'm not the, I'm not the marketing guru that my partner is, but, I've heard through the grapevine that there's some opportunities there for just to streamline some of those services.
How do you feel, maybe just personally, about the whole AI uptick in the world today that we're in? I mean, just as like a human, there's benefits to it, obviously, in certain aspects, right? That's what I see and think. Does it concern you at all? Are you one of these that are like welcome to it with some sort of control, or you just let it be unfettered and go? I mean, it's a big convo nowadays, especially in the world of business and in marketing. Like, how much will it be used and leveraged?
I'm an efficiency guy first. So I'm not a huge fan of regulation and control. So now if we're talking about like AI taking over the world, like Elon Musk says they're going to do, that might be a different scenario. But in terms of like, if you're asking me about replacing jobs and how it's going to change things, all I care about is is it more efficient, and does it add to the economy? And the reason why is we're always going to find a way to use and maximize human input. So I'm not, I saw this podcaster the other day, or content creator, and he's going around the street and he's asking people what their jobs were. And then he asked them if AI would replace their job. And every single person said, there's no way AI could do my job. And then he would say and then he would explain to them exactly how AI could replace them. And it was kind of funny. And so I started thinking, could AI replace what I do? And I'm not scared of that. I'm the type of person that I'll figure it out. I'll evolve. I'm not going to be in our companies. We're not going to have AI take jobs. We'll just transition people. So I think it's fantastic.
Right.
I think our lives are going to be better. I think, what we produce is going to be greater. So
yeah,
I say bring it on.
There's always, again, in these sorts of things, I remember you remember Y2K. Remember that? Like when when it was going to be 2000, everything was going to stop. Like planes were all going to fall out of the sky. Everything was going to be a disaster. And it turned on the midnight. It turned, man, and there was just like another day.
We're all waiting for the lights to go out.
Right. So like when they make big deals of it, yes, I agree. And there's some things in marketing that are, how does Google going to look at content written by AI and chats and thrown up? Those will be very interesting to look at. But there's definitely efficiencies that you can immediately see. I use these things a lot just to give me ideas, man. Like in content creation, and like you want to bounce ideas off somebody now, you can go and try to get some ideas. So I think in that regard, it's been great. To close, let me ask you this: you have one thing. If you could say one thing to somebody who says, "Hey, man, hey, Allan, I'm going to get into this game. I want to get into pest. I'm going to get a business. I got enough capital. I'm going to go for it." Do you have one thing that you could say to them? Here's my advice to you in all your experience. Can you boil it into one thing?
Yeah, I would just say do it and don't quit.
Just go.
Like, just go. Just stuff's going to come up. Just figure it out. I have 19 business partners across several companies that I own. When I look for a business partner, the number one thing I look for, it's not skill set, it's not experience, it's not even really direct personality. It's, do I think that this individual is going to wake up every morning and say, hey, let's start again? And so for somebody that's starting a business, you have to be able to do that. You have to say, yesterday was a freaking crap day, maybe the worst day of my life, and today I'm starting like it didn't happen. Today's
a new day.
If you have that perspective, it doesn't matter what trouble you run into, you'll be successful.
I love that, and it's a great way to close. Where can people find more information about you, Allan, if they're interested in this and they want to check you out and hear more from you? Where can they go?
Yeah, probably my website, allandraper.com. There's an appointment link where I chat with people for 15 minutes, see how I can help them. My Instagram, I'm very active on Instagram, Allan R. Draper. And then I mentioned our podcast, Bug Bucks. That's especially for pest folks, BUGBUX.
Awesome. Hey, man, thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody, we'll have all this up on more information about the show, too, BeFieldFamous.com. Tell your friends, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Remember, your success is fame-worthy, so come tell your story. Thank you for telling yours, Allan. I appreciate it, man.
Yep, my pleasure.